could do it in 1 or 1.5, 2 minutes maximum. So yeah, so I solved a lot of easy questions, spent good amount of 2 years in CP, then got a job from campus, which I did not like very much. Uh, Prepared offline and applied for Amazon, got into Amazon, worked there for 3 years about in different teams. Then I headed to work at a startup uh, for a startup called ShareChat for a brief period, about 8 months. And lately, I am working. I've joined Udaan, working again as a software engineer at Udaan. Uh, yeah, so that's pretty much my journey. Uh, I I'm currently helping a couple of folks cracking FANG interviews. Uh, that's been of my interest lately. Since my college days, I was part of coordinator of programming club and all. So I was very much in teaching and helping people crack things, uh, giving the secret sauce, just the right amount of work that you need to do. You don't need to work too hard or work like totally uh, burn yourself to actually get into these companies. It's very strategic way of getting into big companies or even startups. So yeah, we'll possibly cover all those things today. And yeah, let's go for Himanshu. Anything that you wish to say?
Okay, hi. So yeah, just like Chandan said, like my journey has been like pretty. What do you? It's not as it's not the usual path people take, but it was more towards about like finding a path where I'm passionate about. So yeah, just like Chandan said, I was also coordinator, co-coordinator of the club. Also, back in the days, I was not as good as Chandan sir, but yeah, I used to do decently in competitive programming. Apart from that, I was a part of basketball club. We won and we used to play a lot of times then. And then since towards the entire journey of my college, I did a good amount of competitive programming in my first and second year. Then I got into cloud computing. I did a lot of things in that. Uh, gained a lot of knowledge. Moved towards. Uh, I was trying to apply most of my knowledge, and as a result, I got into Oracle on the basis of my cloud project itself. I worked in the cloud team at Oracle, where I specifically requested to be placed in. And then after coming back from Oracle, I found my calling actually towards the last semester. I spent most of my semester working in deep learning, machine learning, things like that. Though I was not at all interested in machine learning before that. So you can see like how drastically things can change for you. So yeah, after that, I got placed off campus again at StackU Technology. It's a pretty hardcore research company back in Gurgaon. So me and Chandan sir were again in Gurgaon for some time. Uh, and then moving forward, I pursued my career in machine learning. I am pursuing it as a machine learning engineer, senior machine learning engineer at Quantify and iSchool Connect. Most of you guys are knowing, like, will be knowing Quantify. So that is the parent company of my current company. Uh, and I think quite a lot of you got hired there as well. So yeah, that has been pretty much my entire journey and contribution.
Guys,
Thank you,
Himanshu
sir,
was
for your introduction.
very good at CP. It's just he's the kind of person who was the one, as he called, finding the calling. So he's truly that person pursuing what he wants. Yes, Priyansh, how should we proceed next?
Okay, sir, then we should start with the questions.
Great, yeah. So let me read questions one by one. Try to answer as many as I can, and hopefully everything would get covered. I think you guys have given a pretty exhaustive list. So yeah, let's get started. So there's a question from 2017 batch. What is the depth up to which interviewers can ask us about our projects in companies like Amazon, Microsoft? So question is basically, till what depth projects are asked. So let's just talk about projects. What kind of projects do you need to do in college? How much are they asked? What is the value of it in general? So one definitely needs to do certain projects in college, which actually the idea of doing projects is basically that you have some hands-on at development. Okay, and then interviews actually look for your contribution in project. So in college, usually we do group projects, and we say that we built an OCR mechanism through ML by implementing a paper. So they will specifically ask for your contribution. For example, in my DBMS project, I told that I designed the DB and I coded the coded the system, like the PHP part. So you have to be very specific while telling what's your contribution, and then actually uh, with respect to depth, they are actually willing to see how much did you do implementation. For freshers, implementation is what matters, and how did you drive the project from initial stage thinking of idea to actually delivering it, and what was the problem that you're trying to solve. It's pretty much just at a very surface level. It's not gone for it does not go into very much depth for freshers, at least. That's what I've seen. For talking about big companies, now if you're applying for startups or companies that are in early stages, then they do value projects in terms that, so they let me take a step back. There are basically three types of companies. Okay, one is MNCs like FANG, okay, Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Microsoft, Google, Netflix, all those things. Then there are startups like, let's say, let's pick ShareChat, CureFit, PhonePe, Grofers, Big Basket, all these like company startups. And then there are HFTs. HFTs are high frequency trading firms, Tower Research Capital, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, RCZM, D Shaw. These come under this category. So these are the three basic groups of companies, and they all three have different sets of pattern of asking interview questions, and each look for different set of attributes in the candidate. So uh, MNCs like FANGs basically do not care about anything on your CV. Okay, they only care about your ability to crack the interview. If you are able to solve DS algo questions in the interview, that's what matters to them. Google does not give any dime about what you have written in your CV, what kind of projects have you done. They will look for attributes, your personal characteristic attributes through your projects when you're discussing with them. That are you able to collaborate with the team? Are you vocally self-critical? Are you able to listen to someone's opinion? Are you able to grasp the hints? Those are some basic attributes that they will look upon. But projects, how much complex of the projects are, what kind of projects have you done in depth, does not matter as long as they are like some white label of GSOC kind of projects, something that is very eye catchy. Yeah. So FANGs, only you have to focus on DS algo. Okay. And a little of projects, you have to keep your CGPA above average, which I will say 7 plus. And then comes startups. Startups will do take at least one round of DS algo or problem solving, and then they will also have 1 or 2 rounds on the tech stack. Uh, for example, some startups are, if they are using Django or Python, they'll ask something about Python, or they'll give you an assignment to solve in that. These are, I'm talking about very early age startups, like uh, possibly less than $100 million valuations, which is like less than 50 team size. And the third type of companies, HFTs, who focus on problem solving, plus again language specific things. Like they will ask Java to such a depth that you need to understand how hash maps works, how basically what is the difference between hash map, sets, linked hash map, tree map, all those things. So coming back to the question, uh, projects in big companies doesn't matter a lot They will only try to assess your ability to collaborate with team, be able to communicate, uh, be able to listen, provide an opinion. That's all. Okay. Specifically talking about very big companies like FANG for this. Okay. Hope I answered your question. Moving on to the next question, some common questions which are asked every time in an interview and how to answer them perfectly. So this is a very generic question. I'll push this for later part of the session. Common questions that are asked in an interview and how to answer them perfectly. Let's come to this later. Okay. Next question is how much CPI and branch affects in shortlisting and internships and placements. So CPI, I'll always say keep a CPI above average. CPI, high CPI, something like 9 plus, only matters if you're interested in going for research or for higher studies, like either doing CAT or MBA or GMAT, GRE. That's where your high CPA matters. For jobs, above average CPA, above average is 7 plus. That's good enough. And for internships, CPA again above average is good enough for any company, I would say. Okay.
Okay, Chandan sir, I'll add a bit here. So to all the guys and like to everyone who is thinking of going into research, as in not just research but also in data science. I'm not going to talk specifically about software engineering because, as Chandan sir said, keeping an average above 7 is often good enough. But trust me, guys, there will be you should try to keep your CPA as high as possible if you can. Okay, and it is never going to hurt you. So that is something which will keep you safe throughout your life. Like it should not be like if I'm trying to apply for some position and you are just missing by a few pointers here and there. So that should not be a rejection criteria. Like that hurts actually. So any scholarship that you would like to apply for, any research position that you want to get into, maybe people often change tracks in between careers as well. So at those point of time, it actually helps you guys. So try to maintain as high as possible, and you have to be clear on the goals that you want to pursue. But uh, yeah, because it will keep your it will keep your options open, just in case.
Yes, actually, that's a very valid point Himanshu just said. For example, I'll give you my example as well. So my CPA was 7.1 post graduation, like after the 8 semesters ended. Now, if I wish to apply for an MBA or something, it's very hard for me to get extra pointers on my CPI. So definitely, if you wish to change tracks or careers, it should not become a rejection criteria or something that pulls you back. So it never hurts to keep CPI as high as possible.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll give you my example. So my CPA is 7.9. Okay. And I can't apply to that MHRD funded scholarship because they have a entry criteria of 8. So I'm missing by 0.1. So that hurts actually. And you will realize it later, but try to keep it as high as possible. It's very easy to get a GPA around 8.5. Maintaining a GPA of 8.5 is very easy. Okay. If you just study consistently, okay, like 8.5 is a decent enough GPA, and you can maintain it while doing competitive programming, while doing open source projects. Okay, like that will never hurt you. This is something that you will learn maybe later, but this is what my advice to everyone will be.
Right. And
Yeah.
8.5 actually also, so there are a lot of exchange internships happening through Government of
Yeah.
India, which are provided to central government colleges like us. So there is a DAD, something called DAD, and then there is exchange programs of mechanical and electronics, CS, all branch students as well. So their primary criteria is CPI.
Yeah.
So
PMRF, Ashish, stands a PMRF.
yes, Prime Minister's, is that so?
Research fund, yeah. That is for IITs and ISC, right? So if you get that, you will get a higher stipend, around 70K if you have a pointer above 8. So that is something that, like that, it will never hurt you that way. So
Yeah. But I'll also add one last line around CPI is that even this does not make you to put in under pressure that 7 से ऊपर नहीं है. If your CPI is not above 7, then you can't work out things anything in life.
Yeah,
Even
that
if your
is
CPI is less, it's fine. Today your CPI is less. Tomorrow you will work out something, and at the end you will figure out something. Okay.
yeah.
And there are companies who, even at Amazon, Google, I've seen people with less than 6 CPI are there, and who are just very good programmers or very good at what they do. So ultimately your craft matters.
Yeah.
Okay. And don't get disheartened even like right now if you have less CPI and you even can't pull it off above 7, it's fine. Then you should focus on different things. Like your focus should be to increase your CPI as much as possible, but then also try to add something that outstands in your profile.
Certainly, like having a GSOC, like a GSOCer with a 7 profile will be hired anywhere. Okay, trust me, you will be shortlisted at least. Okay, no one is going to worry too much about your CPI at that point of time. But you have to at least have a like you have to show that your GPA is low because you are very good at this. Okay, and if both are high, then like that's the best case
That's
scenario.
the best. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Let's move on to the next question. Is being extraordinary in either CP or development enough to crack an interview, or do we need both? If yes, then up to what extent? So the question is CP versus development to crack interviews. Let's stick with software engineering interviews first. So CP is only your gateway pass to get an interview. Okay. Uh, Doing CP gives you some rating if you have achieved certain kind of ratings or certain kind of solved good amount of questions, and you've written that into your CVs. It only highlights that you have the potential to crack the interview. It does not reflect that you will be a you will. It does not assure that you will be able to crack. Okay. So when HRs actually look at your profile, they primarily look for your potential to be in the company for longer run, to grow there, and the potential to first of all crack the interview. Competitive programming ratings are a very good parameter to assess that, especially for if you're applying for, let's say, especially Google HRs and Google Facebook HRs directly ask you in your first call, what's your rating at CodeChef? Okay. And even for Amazon HRs as well, it is just to assess that will you be able to pass their bar of hiring at all. So CP, you could do a decent rating is good enough. Development on the other side is also important. If so, idea is basically to maintain a balance between CP and development. There is nothing right or wrong that I can't say that if you just do CP, you will able to crack everything. If you just do development, you will be able to crack everything. Different companies require different things. If you're very good at CP, possibly you will crack FANG very easily. If you're very good at development, you will easily get a job at a startup. If you have a balance of both, then you have both the options open. Okay. Up to what extent? Try to be able to solve at least 5 questions in CodeChef long contest and Division 2C or Division 2D in Codeforces. So if you are able to solve Division 2D in Codeforces consistently, you're pretty much you will pretty much be able to crack Amazon Microsoft easily. I can assure you that. Okay. Is doing CP required in data science related interviews? Himanshu, you go next.
Okay, so yeah, it's not more about CP. It's more about first round that you have to clear for getting into any company. So it's going to be DSA. Even I take the first round as DSA, and most of the people who crack DSA in data science leave a good impression at hand, because what happens is in data science and machine learning, you are not only you are not only there to handle packages and everything. There is a load of data that you have to handle. Okay, and if you are good at, and if you have a good understanding of your system, okay, be it algorithm wise, data structure wise, you have to know that which data structure is going to, reduce your time significantly. That will be really, really helpful, and it will impress interviews like a lot, because anyways, you otherwise your pipelines are going to be very slow. Okay, so there is a lot of data movement happening there. So profile like data engineers and data scientists, they have some requirements of these type of things. So having a competitive background, competitive programming background will never hurt you. It's going to give you an edge over the other candidates. But in data science, there are all other equally or more important skills on which you will be judged. Okay, so in software development, that happens to be your system design. Okay, system design as in you will be asked questions on projects to understand like what is the long term goal, what is the short term goal that you want to achieve. And similarly, there are going to be rounds in data science which is going to judge you on similar criteria, as in your knowledge of algorithms. Are you just using algorithms as black box, or do you understand the algorithm enough to actually make changes to it? Things like that. So also it depends on where you are, or at what level you are going to be hired. So for a fresher, data science is going to be one of the crucial skill on which you will be judged for the entry, and then there will be 2-3 more rounds on which you will be there will be more that those will be more related to problem solving from machine learning point of view. Okay, so yeah, to answer it, yes, it is important. And taking me as an example, I have a competitive programming background, and it helps a lot. Like it helps me a lot because there are times where I have chosen certain data structures over the others, and it has made significant differences. Okay, so it's not just competitive program, but a DSA background also. Like, competitive programming is going to get you covered with, like, if you are good at competitive, you are going to be applying data structures and algorithms faster than your normal other people who are interviewing with you. So that is going to give you an edge. Yeah,
Right.
that will be all. Yeah.
I think that is well put.
Sir,
Yeah.
can we have a quick questions from? Can we have some quick questions from 2017 page? After that, we can continue with other questions. If you have any.
Yes, yes, yeah. Let's do that. So, guys, let's just add questions on the chat box, and we'll cover that one by one. Keep adding questions.
Meanwhile, we can continue as and when question
Yes.
arrives. We can take
Yes, sir, sure.
So next question is, how much does rating in CodeChef Codeforces affect resume shortlisting? I think I answered that. So your background in CP reflects your ability to crack the interview and your potential to crack the interview. That's where it does help in shortlisting the CV. It does not assure you that you will get a job, but it does help you get an interview invite. Okay, as particular how much rating, I can't possibly say. It's for you to convince and communicate that, how you communicate that in CV. I'll give you an instance. I've solved a lot of easy problems. My rating was not so good. I write in my CV that I've solved 1,000+ problems at various competitive programming judge. So instead of putting my rating out there, I'm putting that I've solved a lot of problems, 1,000+ across various judges. So that is one way I have shown that I've done a lot of problem solving and DS Algo, and I can possibly crack the interviews. Okay, moving on. What are the important topics to be prepared for interviews? Software engineering and data science, and where to prepare them. Important topics. So for software engineering, definitely it's all DS Algo plus some computer science fundamentals, OSDBMS network, and OOPS, plus whatever is written on your CV. Guys, a very big pointer for you guys: do not exaggerate on your CV. Whatever is written on your CV will be asked, and you've written a lot of things, you will be outright have a bad impression. I interviewed a guy at ShareChat. He has written a lot of things, Kafka, XYZ, and I was taking his design interview, and he told he'll use Kafka. I asked, how will he use Kafka? He did not know anything about it at all. He totally flunked it, and I totally opposed to hire that guy for that company, for that role. So yeah, eventually he got downgraded from SD2 to SD1. That's what happened for him. So write very little, only which you are confident about in your CV. That would be my advice. For data science, Himanshu, what's the topics and how to prepare?
Okay, so generally, general data structures, as Chandan has said, then you should have a good knowledge of SQL. SQL will help you, retrieve data. There are a lot of time where you have to do analytics and stuff like that. So SQL, having a mindset of data modeling, from data modeling, not just the one you are going to study in courses, in your DBMS courses, but also from the perspective of a data engineer role. Okay, so there you will if you Google things, like there are certain type of schema which are frequently used in data science related jobs, like star schema, things like that. So if you study more on those, you will be able to they will know that once you are into the job, you will be able to organize the data enough to make it useful and make it queryable. Okay, so that is one essential skill. Then your basic algorithms, you should be clear on that. You should be able to at least speak about, or speak in depth about one algorithm. From, like, if they ask you to implement it from scratch, you should be able to implement it from scratch. You should be that confident with that algorithm. So generally, if you are writing trees, you should know in and out about trees, what parameters does affects, like which hyperparameter affects what parameter, like has what kind of effect on tree. Regression, you should be clear with that. What is the difference between linear and logistic regression, stuff like that. You will be surprised to know there are so many people who just don't know the difference. Actually, they have been using it for some time, but they just do not understand the mathematics behind it. Okay, so be very clear on that. Try to learn algorithms, at least one of them. If asked in the interview, you can talk in depth about it. Okay, so that will be my advice to you. Then obviously you should have an overall knowledge of data science. It's not just about implementing. Generally what people do is implement 10 algorithms for the same problem without even knowing what algorithms will be helpful in which scenario. Okay, because you should be able to estimate on the amount, with the amount of data that you have, that this algorithm is going to perform better than that. And it's okay that your answer is wrong, but they will be like any interviewer will be very interested in asking how you reach to that conclusion. Okay, and that is where knowledge of different algorithms comes in. So try to dive into it. These are sort of core roles. Okay, there are other sort of roles like software engineer for machine learning. Okay, those will not require in-depth knowledge of machine learning, but overall machine learning system. Okay, so from that point of time, with the addition of data structures and algorithms, you have to sort of brush up on these skills as well. These are for fresher roles, okay, not for people with 2-3 years of experience. Then there are other requirements as well. Yeah, Chandan, so that will be that will be all the requirements.
We'll cover the how to prepare part short while later. Okay, and let's move on to the next one. There's a question from Pranav. Is it wise to put color of Codeforces on resume, or does it seem childish? See, it does not seem childish, but Pranav, the thing is that nobody remembers the order of colors. So colors do change. They keep adding colors. They'll remove colors. So nobody knows what does cyan color or blue color represent. So rating is something that you could definitely write. uh, rating you can write. It's better to write rating than even writing that you're master or candidate master. Again, for the same reason, nobody remembers, uh, is candidate master bigger or master bigger. Okay, so unless until you are providing a link to the order of it, it does not make sense to the other person.
Recruiters don't understand these things, okay guys, so
Yeah.
so generally how recruiter mind works is they know the trends of that field, they know the fancy word of that field, they will try to spot those things on your CV. Okay, a recruiter which is specializing in that might know few things about it. I know a few recruiters like that, but other than that, people don't understand it. Recruiters don't understand all those things.
Something good that CodeChef has done is like star rating. So that is very visible. Like definitely, it's very simple for anyone to understand that 5 star is better than 4 star. Okay,
Mhm.
but it is not clear for anyone to understand whether candidate master is bigger or master is bigger. There you can write, if you have 1400 rating, 1600, 1800, whatever rating, could write that. All recruiters looking for some scope for you be to be able to crack the interview. That's it.
Uh, Chandan sir, even percentile will help. Percentile will give you, the CodeChef has a percentile, right? So on which slab you lie. So
Uh,
that is
yeah,
something that you can
yeah,
highlight.
percentile, but
Yeah,
they
just try
should
to
just
highlight.
provide
Yeah, yeah.
the percentile or like something with links that could help. Hope that's answered, Pranav. Okay. Uh, we'll cover the rest of the questions meanwhile. Keep adding your questions on the chat box, guys. Okay. Common mistakes done by aspirants as you observe during interviewing. Okay, cool. This is very much what I like. Common mistakes done by people in interview. So see, there are two aspects of being hired. Tech skills matter, but being able to communicate what you're thinking is also very much important. So if you're able to solve the problem in your head in like 1 minute, I don't care. Okay. An interviewer cares how did you achieve or how did you reach that point. Walk the interviewer, treat the interviewer as like he does not know a thing. You have to walk that person through your journey of thought process, starting from brute force solution, then optimizing it to one level more, then finding some edge cases and how are you actually answering the follow-up questions. What's your thought process? What observations or patterns have you recognized? That is valued more than just being able to solve. If you are just able to solve, it possibly reflects us that either you have solved that question in the past 1 week or you have just mugged it up. Okay, so so common mistake is that not walking the interviewer through your thought process. Problem solving is all about thought process, how you are able to break a big problem into small relatable chunks uh, that can be solved using standard algorithms. Uh, so communication and showing your thought process, thinking out loud, then actually paying heed to the hint. A lot of times, candidates, what they do is they just stick to one solution. They have one idea in their mind, they'll keep working on that. The interviewer is saying, why don't you try this? I think this is something of. Anytime an interviewer opens his or her mouth during an interview, pay special attention to that. Uh, Possibly you are going some off track or you are doing some mistake. 99% of the cases, he's trying to give you a nudge in the right direction. Try to think of it as a hint, a slight direct or indirect hint, and pay special attention to that and try to see what he's actually trying to see say. So yeah, paying heed to what interviewer is saying, grasping the hints is very important. Okay, it's not like you have to solve the problem altogether by yourself, but we are also assessing that are you able to take slight hints and are you able to progress yourself? that
this
thing is
basically
also.
shows that you are when stuck you have the ability to approach and ask for help around people who around your colleagues, which and you don't shy away from that. So you have to tell them that you have tried so many options and this is where you are now. If communicate, and then you can work on a problem together as well, and also like you actually listen to other people's ideas as well. That is very very important, and it shows collaborative skills.
Yes. So anything that you speak during an interview actually also translates to one of your people characteristics. Uh, and besides the tech skill being ability to solve the question or not, a lot of your soft skills and your characteristic traits are also assessed in each round. There's a question from Karthik. Till what extent internships completed during the UG increases the chance of getting hired in the company of interest? So internships do add value. I'll be very honest, Karthik. So I did not get a chance to do internship in my college time, and I faced a lot of difficulty getting a job call from regular companies. But as I said, companies like FANG, like Amazon, Microsoft, Google, they don't. Uh, for them, it doesn't matter whether you have done a lot of internship. For them, it mainly matters: are you able to crack the interview? Do you have the right problem solving DS algo mindset, and are you a culturally right fit? Okay. For startups, it really does matter if you're not getting. So there are a handful of FANGs. You should not put all your eggs in the basket to crack FANG always. Internships do matter. Do an internship definitely in your 4 years of college. Do anyhow. These days, it's very easy to get an internship. Uh, to get hired in the company of interest, then there is also something, a factor called relevance of the internship. Not just doing any internship will help. Like you could do an internship in marketing, but if you're applying for software engineering role, it does not add any value. Okay. Your internship should be in a relevant space to which you're applying. Hope that answers your question, Karthik. Okay. Quickly moving on, are internships necessary? If yes, which is better, paid or unpaid, but with more experience, and which platforms are best for getting internship? Internships are, I'll say, very important. Necessary, not sure, but I'll say very, very important. Uh, Paid or unpaid, I'll always say go for paid. Do not do unpaid work. They'll just not value your work and they'll kick you off.
Yeah, there are quite a lot of legal stuff which also follows up if you follow things on LinkedIn, right? So there will be instances where you at the start of internship the you like they generally say that they will be providing you with so and so and stuff, but after 1 month of work you will work your ass off, and then you will get to know that they are going to say that uh, you basically when you are unbilled, right, you are not legally there is no legal aspect involved, so they can do whatever they want and nobody is going to do anything about it. So to avoid all that hassle, you should not avoid as much as possible.
Yeah.
If you are getting that in academia, then and if it's a very good opportunity, research opportunity, then the letters from those professors might add a lot of value to you. But for industry, it's a total no go. Like you should not approach it like that. You should be paid for your work.
Absolutely right. So no free work here. Uh, which platforms to get internships? Uh, Platforms to get internship. I think to get not just internships, but to get jobs or off campus, I'll cover here. One is the best thing is to have a network. See, a network is the best, like the most valued thing you will ever create in your whole lifetime. for any stage in your life. The network that you have will serve the best purpose for any difficulty or anything that you seek, and it will pay immediate results. It will have very high conversion and chances of you getting a call or whatever that you're seeking out from the network. So definitely do more networking and try to seek out direct referrals or direct internship opportunities through your seniors or colleagues or whatever your uh, cousins or relatives are out there. Secondly, I will say look out for subscribe to more blogs, engineering blogs, and communities or groups on social media. They do post a lot of internship opportunities. Like there's Code Nation that offers coding contest. There are sites like HackerRank and HackerEarth. They organize contests for internship opportunities. So you just have to be on the lookout for these things. Regularly, very diligently, very regularly.
So, Chandan, to add to it, there will be other sites as well, like apart from networking. There are websites like LinkedIn is. I have gotten both of my jobs through LinkedIn. So I can tell you that LinkedIn, if your LinkedIn profile is really good, people do approach you. Like I get contacted from Amazon every 2-3 months or every few weeks as well. Okay, so if you have a good maintained LinkedIn profile, you will be approached by recruiters regularly. Okay, then there are websites like Angel. So if you want to get into startups, Angel.co, I think that is the website name. So you will find a lot of startups out there. There are good ones and a lot of good ones there. You should always try to apply to the ones which has been recently posted. Okay, websites like do not register for websites like Naukri and all those crabby websites. Like they will just spam you. Okay, one very underestimated source is Stack Overflow. Maintain a really good Stack Overflow profile, ask questions there. That adds a lot of value as a software engineer to you, because it shows that, see, we as developer copy and paste a lot of code, okay, but what to copy is the entire value which we add, right? So having a good Stack Overflow profile will show that you when stuck, reach out. Okay, and also if you have a good Stack Overflow profile, they have a developer profile also. If you fill all the relevant details, they will refer to you to jobs. So I actually interviewed for this company, Intuit. There are companies like Intuit. Then there is this company, InMobi. Okay, so these are the companies I cracked during Oracle. Okay, and so what happens is Blue Optima. There is one more company like that which has headquarters in London. So those are all the companies I got through Stack Overflow. So these are some of the genuine companies. Okay, companies who post on Stack Overflow know what they are doing. Okay, because generally Stack Overflow is a very clean platform. It will not spam you ever. So you should look out for things like that. LinkedIn, definitely from the first year you should maintain a very good LinkedIn profile. Add pointers to your field, to your LinkedIn profile. Add relevant things that you do on LinkedIn. Just do not add a lot of information there. It will not help. But maintaining a good LinkedIn profile is your way to build a good network, as Chandan sir said. Okay. And once you reach a network of around 3,000 plus, like you will have a lot of opportunity, pushing through your blog posts, putting your opinions out there. So these are the places from where you will get internship calls, job calls, directly without you even applying for them. Okay, so try to maintain all of these.
Right. So we are almost reaching time. I'll be skipping and grouping some questions and covering them in groups. So next questions are around what kind of internships are useful? Are marketing internships helpful for us? See, if you wish to go for marketing roles or business development, product management roles, product analyst roles. Marketing internships are helpful. Anything that you do organizing an event, even for let's say fest, is relevant for your uh, program manager or BDM, business development executive kind of roles for startups, but definitely not relevant to engineering roles. Okay, uh, I've been campus ambassadors for shared Hacker Earth and Hacker Rank. Uh, Not relevant at all. No relevance with respect to software engineering, cracking the software engineering interview. Although it did give me some network, some connections with folks in there, but that's the only value I got in terms of my career.
You can get
Okay.
internal referrals if you make a good network from inside, but nothing as such.
Yes. How to get PPO from internships? So PPO from internships depend on a lot of factors. Uh, See, internships could be 2-3 month long or 6 month long. Uh, it is not completely in your hand to get a PPO from internship. You have to put in the right effort. You don't have to get very chill that okay, you got an internship at Amazon or something. Life is sorted now. I'll get a PPO. You still have to prove that you have the potential to be there at Amazon and grow there for a longer run. A lot of folks in my team I've seen join as interns and they get very chilled out that okay 50,000 intern stipend aa raha hai, let's just chill out, and at the end they just don't get selected for PPO. A little part of your ability to convert to a PPO is also dependent on your manager and your mentor during your internship period. Uh, so it's not totally up to you, but a lot of your personality traits, like if you are not getting a right project, ability to speak, ask for help, being proactive, being able to communicate clearly, those things are actually unrelated to your software engineering skills or tech skills, but they do help a lot in actually assessing whether this person can grow up to how much extent with can this person grow. So those things I'll say, to enhance those skills, your soft skills, I'll say participate more in events, hackathons, or like even organizing the events for fest, for clubs. They actually give you more exposure of how to interact with third parties, how to get things done, how to handle situations, all those things. That experience is always somehow related to forming your character in the longer run. Uh, so yes, PPO from internships not dependent on you totally. It's I'll say 60%, 70% dependent on a mentor and manager. What kind of projects do you get? What kind of mentor or manager you get? So you just have to put in the right effort. The rest is up to them. There's a quick question from Shubham. Do software engineering scenario will change in term of job and roles with the further advancement of AI and ML? Absolutely, yeah. So I'll let Himanshu get through this one.
Okay, so see, software engineering is one skill. It's a skill. Earlier, it used to be a job. Now, it's also a skill. Okay, I hope you understand the difference between them. Okay, so there I have seen a lot of people who are good, uh, who are good at machine learning, but they are not good at software engineering. Okay, so machine learning is about building it's about solving problem where your standard algorithm, you can't write a standard algorithm right away, you can't have a deterministic solution straight away. Okay, so that's where you try to build a machine learning models. Okay, software engineering is about maintaining, building those systems, actually writing those things on scale. Okay, you have to there are a lot of other aspects which comes into play, like you have to do maintenance, you have to add on features, you have to write code in such a way that it's modifiable. Okay, you have to not just write a code which you have hacked in 1 or 2 weeks, but you have to build a system which can run for a couple of years. Okay, and it has the capability of, you know, it should have it should be easy enough to modify it. Okay, things like that. So those are the parts which you will bring, the software engineering will bring to machine learning, things like that. Over time, with the skills like machine learning and AI, so what is happening is people are giving all those APIs, right? So with software engineering, what is going to happen is you will be mostly calling all those APIs, integrating them to your system like you have been doing before. But there are scenarios like you have to understand that machine learning systems, they tend to improve very quickly. Okay, if you have enough data, they will evolve. Okay, every 2 weeks there will be new release. So software engineering roles with machine learning will have shorter release cycles, things like that. Okay, and it is never going to hurt if you have understanding of how machine learning and AI system is built. Okay, so these are the skills which will help you certainly, and yeah, in terms of in these terms, your job roles might be affected. Okay, it's sort of a specialization. Chandan sir, you are on mute.
Yes, I'll just tell you that, let's say for 10 years, it's not going to change.
Yeah.
So 2030 tak nothing is going to change. Our jobs will be there. Maybe they'll be reduced to a certain extent, but yes, software engineers will exist.
Oh, you guys are worried about AI, ML taking your jobs. Don't worry about it. It's not going to happen. It's not anytime soon. That's just not it. Like it's just going to take away the data entry kind of job, not the creative ones.
Right. Quickly moving on, what kind of projects do you think should be in resume when applying for data science internship? Himanshu, projects for data science internship.
Okay, so I can tell you what not to put to make your life very easy. Do not put flower classifier, dog classifier. Just don't do that. Like seriously, it just wastes space on your resume. I'm not like me as when I interview, and I have done it like so I have a team of 8 or 9 people. I have hired right around 4 of them since I was there. Okay, so I can tell you that definitely it's not going to projects like that. I'm simply going to throw away the resume. Okay, that's how simple it is. Like it just shows that you have not it's just that you are in very beginning of stages. Okay, you have to build something which should it doesn't need to be complicated or big, but it needs to be end to end. If you understand what I mean by end to end, is that you should try to build something, however small it is. You should try to put something that you have collected, scraped data from so and so sources, modified it to make into a usable form. Then you have built a model on top of it. Then you have put it into production, like built an API and put it integrated with some web page or something, things like that. This is an end-to-end system. Okay, if me as a recruiter will go, I will first of all be impressed by that you have built something which I can just click and open on my browser and check that if it works or not. Okay, so that is where I will be firstly impressed. Okay, then I'll check how it works. Okay, if you have worked on problem which is not novel, I will focus on whether you have improved the accuracy or performance of the system of the problem in some aspect. Okay, so metrics like that, you have to show that what difference you have made to the problem. Okay, what is new that you are doing to the system? It's not like it should not be that you have used so and so algorithm. I'm not interested in that. I'll be interested in how you have how your algorithm is better from a generic model, and how much difference has your approach made to the problem. This is what I'll be interested in. Having your code out there will help me read through it if time permits. Recruiters will not read it, but the person who is going to take your interview, if the information is there, I'll be if you have written the code very well, I'll be really impressed to see how you have approached to the problem. Have you copy pasted most of the code, or have you written it by yourself? Is the code commented? Things like that. So build a small project do it end to end. Okay, if possible, like if it is possible, improve the accuracy. If it is a problem, it is not a novel problem. If it's a novel problem, then try to build an end-to-end system which someone can consume, things like that. Host it somewhere. Okay, so that is something you should put it in your paper. There is one question from Shivam about would some research paper conversion of GANs be a good idea? So conversion of GANs. I just don't understand what is conversion of GANs means. So just elaborate a bit. We'll take it up.
Cool. Moving on, certificates versus doing projects. So guys, certificates don't matter these days. Every certificate is crappy unless and until it's something like Udacity Nano degree. It holds some value to it. But again, I will say, if you're saying I have Udacity Nano degree certificate and you've done 0 projects in that, it does not hold value. I'll rather say go do a YouTube tutorial, free YouTube tutorial course, go and do freelancing. You will earn money. You will have the high of your life that you're earning in dollars in college days. And you'll also get some good experience that, okay, I've built these websites, these projects as well. And it takes years to build a good freelancing profile. That's also a career option folks could explore. Although I would not very highly recommend of it, but yes, something that people explore, which is very viable these days. Okay, so certificates are no more of value these days. Yeah. Certificates, even degrees are going away, but it will take time for them to go.
So you should be you should be clear on, see, whenever you pursue a certificate. So I'll give you my example. Like I have done shit ton of certificates. I have a complete cloud computing not just a nano degree, it's a specialization course. It was a master's course which I completed from UIUC. So whenever you start learning something, you should, especially in terms of certificates, right? The end goal should be clear. What is, like, do you want a job? Do you want to go into research? Okay, so you should be clear on that first. If you are not clear, do not waste your time there, honestly. If you are doing something on Udacity, like I have done a lot of courses on Udacity, I have 3 nano degrees from there. I know how helpful it has been for me. So I will share that experience, that I had a clear goal that I wanted to do something. I wanted to do something and also get into a job or research as soon as possible. Okay, I had no knowledge about deep learning back then when I started with my first nano degree. But my goal was clear that I always wanted to learn this thing, and I knew that this is something which excites me a lot. So my first nano degree, which I completed, Udacity's deep learning nano degree, it was the first cohort ever hosted. Back then, there were like 20-30 people from India which were in that nano degree. So it was pretty exciting for me. But I knew that my goal is to get into a research job. So that's how I prepared it, right? I learned TensorFlow. I learned I built like 4 or 5 projects back then. And then there was just one project which was worth mentioning finally, because I spent a lot of time there. So when I used to write for job and internships, I used to code that particular project because I knew in and out of it. Okay, and then it will be helpful in it will be helpful in terms that people will know that Udacity has Udacity or any nano degree or any certification that you are doing, unless it's well renowned, people will not trust it. Okay, so if you are doing Google certified projects, okay, those are actually paid and highly paid projects, certificates. You should have a clear goal that this will help me in getting into this sort of job. Okay, people, for a fresher, if you have knowledge of in and out of a Google system, okay, it will help you. They will prefer you more. It will not guarantee a job. Okay, so that is something people should understand that, and you don't need to worry too much about certificates if you don't have a clear goal. Okay, So yeah, that will be my advice when it comes to
I'll
certificates.
just add one more point to it. The idea of writing projects and adding certificates has become very cliched in your CV. What interviewers or your hiring managers are trying to assess is that do you have the curiosity to learn? Do you learn something by yourself, or is it just you are a puppet who is just given a task and just does what he's asked to do?
Yeah.
Does he learn something on his own? Does he implement something on his own? How will that person contribute besides the work he's allotted to do? That's what they're looking for. So now it's up to you what kind of activities that you wish to do to reflect that in your CV. That
So
you could say that I've done these courses, done these projects, partnered with these people, so and so. Lot of things that you could do. Okay. Anyways, projects over certificate any day. Okay.
yeah,
Projects
projects
over
or
certificate.
certificate and then.
Moving on, internships or working under open source programs. Internships, I think both are, this is a tough one actually, internships versus working under open source. So I'll say go for open source more, because the chances, if you're getting an open source opportunity, it's better because the chances of getting an open source is less while getting an internship is high. So it's like you have 70% chances of getting an internship, but 30% chances of getting an open source thing. So get your experience in open source first, then go for getting an internship. Internship are rather relatively easy to get than an open source opportunity, in my
But
opinion.
but it also depends on where you are going to get your internships. Okay, so that is something that you have to always
Yes,
weigh in your decision. Okay, if the company is renowned, right? If you are going to get an internship or Uber, then an open source work, then Uber is the choice, clear choice for me. Like the reason being, everyone knows Uber. Okay, everyone knows Amazon, everyone knows Microsoft. But if you are going to get into internship with a startup which is rather unknown, then a very known programs like MLH or GSOC or Outreachy or Girl Script, something like that. All those programs are actually driven, like they are funded by industry itself. Okay, people from Google, Microsoft have funded that particular those all of those things. Okay, and it is going to show that you don't require a lot of hand holding. Working in open source demonstrates that a lot. Okay, it shows a willingness to get out there, ask for help, ask mentor, write writer. You have the capability to come up with idea, write write-ups about it. You know, convince people to actually mentor you, things like that. I have not done it, but so far I have seen the profile of people, and I have always been impressed. Okay, so I think anyone who will see you getting into a well-known program will be impressed than a internship at a rather unknown company. Okay, so that is something that you have to understand and weigh in your decisions.
right. Quickly moving on. How much of the personality traits does affect in an interview? I think we covered it. It affects a lot. See, personality matters after your tech skills. Tech skills are first, but then personality definitely adds. So if there's this question, it's asked, who would you prefer, a skilled applicant with average or below average personality, or a less skilled applicant with good personality? A less skilled applicant with good personality who can do the job and is coachable. Do the
Okay,
job
so
and coachable. That should not be missed.
one thing to understand is that, see, when you say good, it's a very relative term, right? You should, if you are going to outweigh someone's, if you are sort of, if you are aggressive, right? Aggressive and you are not collaborative. However smart you are going to piss off your colleagues. Okay, they will not want to work with you, and if they are not going to want to work with you, company is going to get not the full output from you. Okay, and then in that case, what is going to happen? Company is going to suffer. Company will never want that. This is straight up. This is how company thinks. Okay, from company's perspective, you should have decent enough conversation skills to approach someone. Okay, it does like either you have to be like ultra smart, like crazy smart, then and you are doing an individual project, then in that case it will be fine. And I don't think there are companies like that who go who go for hiring people like that. I don't know about such companies. So far I have not seen them. Okay, unless you are a consultant, that's a different stuff. But from a team's perspective, ability to collaborate, speak out your mind, be humble, be patient. Things like that matter a lot. Like any day, someone is going to like to work with people who make them, relaxed. So that is how you should think of it.
Right. Uh, yes. So blogging, how does blogging affect your profile? Blogging simply reflects that you're doing something on the side. You are interested in learning, and you spend some time on things other than your academic. See, the idea of building a CV is everyone does the college academic projects, everyone does pass the exams. How does your profile stand out? So blogging adds a standing out feature to your profile, but it adds to the point of doing something apart from your regular work. Uh, it it is not quantifiable to say that how much of it will add to your profile, but it does show that if it is a consistent blogging, not like once in a while you're posting once in 3 months. If it is consistent, let's say weekly blogs, then definitely it adds value. At least someone will definitely open your blog and see.
Yeah, we have seniors like that, right? We have a couple of juniors also who write consistently. Like
Yeah.
I don't remember the name exactly, but in my LinkedIn, I really like reading their blogs. Uh, uh, so they write very regularly, and you should try to as well. The reason being, when you write something, it shows that you are confident about something. You are not afraid to be out there. You put yourself out there. Okay, and it shows that you have skills, like you understand something. Okay, that's why you are able to write some blog about it or something about it. So that is something that is how it will add value to you. So think of it as uh, think of it as a curricular activity from like from a professional's point of view, not extracurricular, but I'm saying curricular from professional's point of view, not as student. Okay, from student, it's an extracurricular. So this is going to help you actually, get to talk to a lot of people, hear out their opinion, know when you are wrong, things like that, and it actually helps you grow as a person. And that's very important, like in job roles in long term.
Yes. So are projects that are done as part of course acceptable in resume? Yes. Your academic projects are discussed well in depth during your last round. Especially what is your contribution, and what part you played, how, up to what extent did you make it? Did the team make it? Okay. How to develop your profile on sites like GitHub, LinkedIn, Twitter. For GitHub, uh, you should start by pushing whatever work you do, side projects, small projects that you're trying. You could just push it on GitHub, and then definitely do emphasize on documentation for GitHub. Even if it is little, how to just run your project, what it does, document that. Uh, for LinkedIn and Twitter, content is king, guys. So you could start blogging on LinkedIn or Twitter as well, or just something that is relevant or important to you. You could post that, and it shows that you have an opinion, and it shows what matters to you, and it shows that you are not afraid of presenting your opinion as well. Even receiving the criticism, how do you handle that? How do you engage with people? Lots of things could be assessed from that. but how it will help in job, not necessarily how not necessarily your LinkedIn or Twitter profile could actually give you a job opportunity. It will help in discovery uh, of for recruiters to actually identify or reach you out, definitely. But how it will lead you to convert or join or get an offer, not directly relatable.
Generally, like hiring managers will be very impressed. Hiring managers, not recruiters. Okay, it gives you a point on which you can talk about. It's an icebreaker, so sort of thing like that.
Okay. Which are better, small projects or big projects? Doesn't matter, quality over quantity. So small projects versus big projects, it really does not matter whether the project was small or not. What was the quality of the project and what was your contribution in it? That's what matters. A lot of projects don't matter. Again, if you are putting 8 projects in your CV, it's better to put 2 projects, but you should have done substantial work in it. You should have understood the problem. You should have a decent enough role in the project to play. Uh, that's more relevant than actually putting a lot of junk on your CV. Hope that answers. Uh, how to prepare CV specifically for off-campus placements? This is a very good question. How to stand out of thousands of resume? See, for off-campus placements, your CV should reflect few things. One, potential to crack the interview for the company that you're applying. For MNCs or FANGs, it is like ability to crack DS Algo interviews. For startups, it is your internship experience. For HFTs, again, problem solving and some work done in Java or something, a Java project. Especially Goldman Sachs, DShaw, these companies ask in-depth Java. Then you should show that you have taken initiatives and you have learning curiosity. It could be shown either through the initiatives, some kind of side projects, self projects that you have done, not just academic projects, but you have taken a course, did build something, some kind of app or website or any backend. Uh, Possibly you blog, those kind of things. So on high level, your CV is assessed on 3-4 factors in the first glance by the recruiter. One is your internship, whatever experience you have, your college and a little of your GPA, and then uh, do you have the potential to crack the interviews or be a part of the organization, either through your DS Algo CP ratings or your internships or your projects that you have done. That's it. Matlab, everything else crap. Everything else is crap. So yeah, hope that answers. Uh, what are ways to compensate for the loss of not getting a summer internship after third year? Ways to compensate: do a self project and put it on your CV. Internship, if you have not gotten an opportunity for internship, that's fine. But then you should be willing to show that you have the ability to do that, and you have the curiosity to do the work or take up projects by yourself and do it. Okay, ultimately you want to show the potential in your CV uh, and to the prospective company. That could be reflected through internship or that could be reflected through self projects. Internships are definitely more valued because they directly translate to industry experience. But if not, then self projects are also good.
Chandan, so to add to it, from academic point of view, so we have been focusing more on industries, right? So they are with the onset of data science and machine learning, right? So it's a so people do a lot of research in academia as well, and when I was in college, I didn't knew about things like working with profs and publishing research papers, things like that much. But if you guys are interested in pursuing higher education or getting a core research role, having an internship, academic internship with a good prof, not just good prof, which has led to a publication, will put like put you through the doors, and it will put a very big plus to your profile. Not talking about from industry perspective, but from core research jobs that you would like to apply to, and from higher education point of view. So these are like, if you are in your second year and you are confused, right? If you are not interested in competitive programming, then there are a lot of venues available for you. You should try to work with our college professors work with them for second year. Okay, start publishing something in IEEE or something from our college's background. Publishing in IEEE will not be very difficult, and we have very good quality professors out there who do very good research. Okay, then we can. This will also help you in your third year if you want to go to foreign countries and do research internships there as well. It's not research internship, but these will be very big pluses if you want to get core research jobs or get into higher studies at very good colleges. Okay. So when I was in college, I didn't knew about all those things, but now I know. So that's why it's good to know about things like this as well. That there are a lot of paths like this. So Shivam is asking, is data science getting too much crowded? Personal query. Okay. Obviously, like data science is a position, is a place where your degree doesn't matter as much. You are a computer scientist, right? From like computer science, from for CS people, data science is getting overcrowded because people from all the branches can apply, right? All you need is mathematical background and machine learning knowledge. So the barrier to entry is very high in data science, and you have to have a lot of experience to get into very good positions, be it a research paper, be it a very good, a very famous professor's referral, things like that. So that is your way to very good data science internships and opportunities.
Right. Few of very good, interesting questions. While learning a new skill or technology, should we focus more on depth or breadth? See, guys, I'll say you should be jack of all, and master of one. Okay. So what that means is you should know that something this exists that can solve this problem. You should have surface knowledge or the breadth of most of the things, and then you should be master of certain one thing. Like if you are, let's pick, say if you know problem solving very well, so you should be very confident that you know problem solving very well. But other technologies or projects or those things, you know that okay, there's Java, this is how things are developed, and there's app building, it could be done through React Native, Flutter, or Angular, whatever. So knowledge of that is necessary, but depth in one particular field is expected. That's the right set of expectation anyone has from any engineer. In my opinion, that's purely my opinion. It's nothing of industry standard. Okay. Uh, Better approach to learn and understand DSA. Better approach to learn and understand DSA. Implement everything. Don't read or cram. You have read a question how to find a link, how to find a cycle in a linked list. Don't just read the code. Go take an editor, write a program to create a linked list, how to find the cycle, write the code by yourself. Do the hard work. You will actually understand the concepts by doing more, and it will retain in your head for a longer time than just by reading. Reading is only when you have very interviews upcoming in a very short period. So doing is what will actually make you grasp and retain knowledge. That's my personal funda from life, that application is more important.
Yeah.
Okay. So small algorithms, when even if you are reading DFS for the first time, implement DFS. Reading about three-dimensional DP, implement three-dimensional DP. Like I had a very good friend and roommate with whom I used to do very complex questions like build a binary tree whose each node is a stack where each node of a stack is also a queue. Try that one, and I'm very sure that it will clear your concepts a lot. Something, anything out of the blue and anything as weird as that, just implementing that and rigorously testing that does help a lot. Okay. What's the level of competition out there in the market? Not sure in which respect, but I'll take this as a general competition, general question with respect to software engineering. Competition in software engineering market, very tough, guys. Everyone these days knows how to crack software engineering interviews. It's almost becoming equivalent to cracking IIT or those kind of papers. Everyone wants to get a job at FANG. Uh, it's very easy. The simple path is understand the basic standard algorithms very well by doing and understanding them in depth. Why does Dijkstra work the way it works? Understanding the proofs is important for the standard algorithms, and then actually going out just solve 200 questions on lead code. I am 90% confident that you'll be able to crack Amazon or Microsoft. Okay, for Google, Facebook, it's a different game altogether. It requires more in-depth preparation, about 2 to 3 months of preparation for Google, Facebook. But for Amazon, Microsoft, 1 month of preparation. And if you've done CP, or if you've solved about 150 to 100 lead code questions or 100 Geeks for Geeks set, it's very easy to crack that companies. Again, another thing that you need to understand is you don't need rank 1 in interviews. There is no ranking criteria in interviews. You just have to get selected. So you have to get selected, you have to crack 80% or 70-80% of the interview, which means about 3 rounds should go very well. 1 round you can compromise, although I'll not suggest that. But yes, and if you've solved 100 Geeks for Geeks set, your 80% questions will overlap. I personally solved 150 Geeks for Geeks set when I was interviewing for Amazon, like back in 2016. Lead code was not so popular back then. And I did them all on paper. And if you see the pattern, over 150 sets of Geeks for Geeks Amazon sets, there'll be not more than 100 or 120 questions. Everything overlaps there. Okay. I think we have covered most of the questions here. There are some personal questions for me. There's one question: why did I leave Amazon? So, guys, I'm not sure how relevant it is for you, but it is just a personal interest of mine. Having worked at Amazon for 3 years, I very well understood how things are developed in a very process oriented in the right manner. Things at such a big company are pretty slow and very process oriented, require multiple levels of approval to do things. A project that takes 3 months to develop in Amazon is developed in 3 weeks at ShareChat. Okay. So I wanted to join a fast paced growth startup. That was just my personal interest to go and do more relevant stuff. And yes, so I'll just say that it's my personal interest and to experience more high growth startups, how things work, where there is no process oriented, very quick pressure, just do it while attitude. That's what I wanted to experience. And yes, I very much liked it. Yeah. I'll give you a very good question and I'll answer that as well. So one of an intern in my Amazon team got PPO from Amazon, from my team itself, and he also got an offer from ShareChat. And he came to me that, okay, what should I do? Should I join ShareChat as a fresher or should I join Amazon as a fresher? Okay, and this is what I told him. See, Amazon will teach you how to do things in the right way. Okay. Initially, when you're a fresher, you have the ability to get molded. Your thought process can get molded in the right set of form, and you will learn to do things in the right way, right process, ensuring every minute detail. Share chat will give you a lot of high, a lot of kick in doing things, uh, but it will not give you the right learning or the right mentorship you need in your former years. Okay, so I highly recommended that person to join Amazon. Uh, Once you stay in Amazon for 2 years and you have learned how to do things in the right way, you can go out in the market and you know how things should be built, what should be the parameters, how to set up processes in the right manner. And then you are very much valued at such startups because you have that expertise. You have seen all those processes that ensure nothing could be broken. Okay. And for, there's a simple funda. It's easy to do the jugaad, but it's very hard to learn to do the thing in right way. So if you have, if you know the things to do in the right way, you can go from there to the jugaad place very easily. But from coming from jugaad to doing the things in the right way is very hard. Once you've got that habit to do just do things without caring whether it will break production system or not, it's very hard to do things in the right way, ensuring everything. I've seen that a lot. Uh, so go for a bigger company if you have the opportunity first, uh, and then go for a startup. Okay. So last two questions I'll take. During interview, how's the behavior of the interviewer in terms of helping? Like while solving coding question, is it good or not to show rough work screen to interviewer so that if I'm stuck somewhere, interviewer can give you hints. So during interviewer, so always understand you are being interviewed to get selected and nobody is there to reject you. They are spending time with you to select you, not to find reasons to reject you. Okay, they want to help you utterly to get you hired, but then you have to give them enough data points and enough reasons for them to make a decision. Okay, if that requires you showing if you're stuck somewhere, and if that requires you showing your hard work that you have come from A point to B point, but you're not able to go from point B to point C, then please do it. It means that you are diligent enough in your process and you are just not seeking help all the time. So yes, so interviewers or HRs want to select you. They don't want to reject you. Keep that in mind. That helps you a lot. Okay. Uh, Software engineering jobs affected by COVID? No, yeah, not affected by COVID. Only affected for certain companies that were shut down due to COVID. Uh, not in every not every company got affected. Okay. Life of software engineers after 5 to 10 years after of getting first job. It pretty much depends on person's aspiration. Okay. So if you have the aspiration of just earning good and settling down, it's a perfect job that earns you well. You settle down, get married, go for world tour, whatever you want to do. Okay. If you have other aspirations, again you have to start from scratch. Okay. So there is no concrete advice from my side, life of software engineer, because I'm right at that point. I'm exploring more options right now. Uh, Future beyond 10 years of software engineer. See, software engineering is a skill. There's a reason why people ask DS algo questions in such big companies. They are not seeing, they don't, so you would have seen that they don't ask you to code in a certain language. I have taken interviews of candidates who have wrote code in JavaScript, okay, and I was fine with it as long as that person was able to explain it to me. So what we are looking for is your problem solving ability, logical reasoning, how you are able to approach. Are you able to break down complex, overwhelming problems into small chunks and be able to tackle from there? So that's a life skill. You develop a mindset for that, and it stays with you even in personal situations like anything that comes in your life. Hope that makes sense to you guys. in college years, what made me different from my batchmates, and how did it help you land such jobs? Yeah, I had a very clear vision. If I do XYZ, I'll be able to crack Amazon, Microsoft. I knew it right from second year. If I just do CP, these are the companies that ask this site of interviews. These are the companies that ask, like, I knew this, that Amazon, Microsoft don't care about your projects or CPA, anything. Do CP, they crack their coding interviews, you will be selected. Startups care about your projects. I did not do projects. I did not get internship. I although did many projects, but I did not get opportunity at good startups. So yeah, having that clarity gives you the edge. Okay. One question I actually pushed off initially was common questions asked in interview and how to answer them perfectly. Common questions asked, you can get very well from Geeks for Geeks while I said. How to answer them perfectly is you have to rehearse. Okay. You have to do kind of mock interviews, or how you are actually presenting your idea to an interviewer is what matters. Instead of, so I recently interviewed a guy who has solved 800 lead code questions. Okay. And I gave that person a question, he solved it in 5 minutes. I gave him second question, he solved it in 10 minutes. I gave that person third question, he solved it in again 10 minutes. So 35 minutes mein he solved about two medium and one hard question of lead code. And I said, I'll not select you. Okay. Because he knew the solutions. He did not even talk about why he's choosing the right set of this data structure, why DP will work for this problem, why not greedy. So those things actually matter. Uh, so having walking interviewer through your thought process is very important, and not just jumping onto the solution. Okay. So ability to communicate, ability to collaborate is also what is measured. Guys, I think all the questions that you have put up in the form initially are covered. I'm opening the forum here. Let's just take 5-10 more minutes to any questions we have. I think there's a question from Pranjal. Does learning various languages and coding well help in interview of CAT, or we have to stick to pointers in that case? And if not 8.5 plus, then what? In CAT, various languages, I am hoping, Pranjal, you're talking about speaking languages and not programming languages. So, uh, see, definitely, again, whenever you're applying to some place, uh, anything that gives you an edge always adds more value to your profile. Okay, if you know German, Spanish, whatever, it definitely adds an edge. How much of an edge it will add, I can't say. Okay, but coming to the pointer, pointer is something that is actually in their evaluation criteria, so that should not be compromised upon. Your language will not, extra language will not compensate for your pointer. Okay, does that answer your question, Pranjal? If I understood it right. Uh, Karthik, as you mentioned, to go for an MNC as a fresher, so to work as an intern. No, Karthik. So if you're wherever you are getting an intern and industry experience is industry experience, do an intern. Uh, if you are getting an opportunity at an MNC, that's good. But I will say focus on doing more and more interns. Students from colleges like IITs and Triple IT, Hyderabad and all, they do three interns. They do intern in each summer of each year. Okay, and they do it at Google, they do it at Facebook, Amazon, and they have, like, by the time they are graduating, they already have the three brands on their CV, or they do it from like two startups or one big company. So do more internships, as many as you could. Uh, that I will suggest. Company doesn't matter as much. unless and until unless and until you are going as a full time. Okay. How much branch matter during off-campus placement? Branch matter during off-campus placement. So yeah, as long as you are able to show in your CV that you have the potential to crack the interview and you are able to crack the interview, branch plays a very little role. I won't say it does not matter at all. Definitely they look at branch, but if there are good data points for the recruiter to see that you have the ability to crack the interview, he or she will shortlist you for the interview. And then it's totally up to you on convincing the hiring manager that why are you switching from mechanical to or EC to computer science or vice versa. You will have to give a reason, but it's not something that will not give you an opportunity. Was I able to answer a question, Ujjwal? Requirements for HFT companies and which programming language should be focused. HFT companies, Java. Requirements, problem solving, Java in depth. That's all. If we do big projects as a group of 4, like an app, while it is not very clear how to portray that very nicely. See, clarity. So it's all about putting it into the right words, Pranjal. What you could do is like you could write first. If you could write a first draft, get it reviewed by some people, okay, and then refine it over and over. Students at IIT Kanpur, they do about on average 14 revisions of their CV, 14 revisions of their CV before actually sending it out. I'm pretty sure we don't even do more than 2.
Yeah, the reason being like we don't start early, right? So you have to start early, start building a format, right? And certainly you can get good. At least you will get a call back from Google. So I got call back from Google in my second year itself. So I did interviewed for them. Obviously, did not crack it, but it was not very tough, honestly speaking. Like it's just Hawa that people make that it's very tough and this and that. It's generally it's for internships at second year, third year. It's not that tough. Okay, but yeah, the reason I was able to do it because I started very early. Right, I had my CV made. It takes like a lot of hours to make a good resume. I had a one-page resume. I have a very crisp cover letter, and I got a call back from Google. Like as soon as I applied within 2-3 days. I got a call back from them. So if I can do it, like I guess anyone can do it. Chandan said you are on mute, by the way.
Priyans has a question. Benefits of applying for student partner program. So student partner program only, again, it is something similar to doing marketing interns or campus ambassador, as far as I know. It will only give you connections and with recruiters or folks from those companies, which will in turn give you referrals, but does not give you direct benefit in cracking or getting selected in the interview. It will show that you have done something extra apart from your curricular or academic work, but it will only give you network plus some extra initiative wala points. Okay, Abhishek is doing CP in Python, negative point. Do all companies allow Python? See, no problem around any language, Abhishek. You could even do it in JavaScript, I could say. You could do it in any language. As long as you know the syntax and you are able to explain it in the interview, it's fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
And actually Python is preferred, right, these days in interviews because of you don't have to. It's not very code heavy, right? So you don't have to write a lot, and you can spend a lot of time in explaining and problem solving rather than in writing it anywhere. So it's actually preferred. People People give it like, and almost everyone knows Python these days.
I'll add a certain point, Abhishek, on this. So, whatever language that you're choosing to code during your interview, you should know the complexities of the functions that you're using. For example, if you're using slicing, if you're using any other operator of inbuilt operator or function of uh, Python, you should know what your total functions complexity will result in. And for example, a lot of folks I interviewed used Python when there was a question on strings to actually split the string on delimiter. When I asked them to implement a function for that and not use split, it took them a lot of time to implement that simple function. So don't just get dependent on inbuilt functions. That's my feedback. And also know the complexities and how those internal data structures are implemented. Like what is a tuple? Is it a hash map? Is it a table? What is it internally? थोड़ा depth में you should also understand whatever language you choose.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think we have covered all questions. Any last minute questions, guys?
Like seems like it. I guess we covered pretty exhaustively. Correct. Yeah, Priyansh, we can wrap it up, I suppose.
Yes, sir. And thank you so much for joining for the session, taking out your time. It's almost 2 hours now. It was
Yes.
it was really informative. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much,
Thank,
Priyansh, for inviting
thank you,
us.
Priyansh, for organizing this. It was wonderful and happy to help you guys. Reach out to me on LinkedIn or Himanshu on LinkedIn for anything that you want to discuss. I'm also speaking on behalf of Himanshu here. So we
Yeah,
are
sure,
happy to
guys.
help.
No problem.
Yes, and it was fun answering your questions, guys. Possibly let's organize something else sometime later. Uh, uh, I could do a mock, uh, how to do a mock coding interview kind of webinar kind of thing. Let's, Priyansh, you are the coordinator of programming club, right?
Yes, sir.
Select one guy through some process. Let's do a live coding interview for that guy.
Sure, sir.
I hope it sounds interesting and
Yes, sir.
the points that I told about expressing and all those things, we could do that. Okay. Uh, cool, guys. Lovely interacting with you. Uh, that's all from our side. Let's stay in touch.
Yeah. Yes,
Yes.
and so all the people who are in like 2017, 2018, 2006, like you guys are starting, right? So try to be, so just try to be open, like from the start to try to find out learning opportunities as much as you can. Try to be a see for all those who are in computer science, electronics, very interested in. Very interested in coding and things like that, you also should try to learn more about being a good computer scientist as well. Because we lack a lot of those. People do talk a lot about cracking interviews and everything, but you should also think about learning other aspects of software engineering, like operating system, databases, things like that. It will help you later in your career, and actually it will give you edge. It will actually help you enjoy the process better. So just keep an open mind, do fun stuff. Yeah, and it's just your formative years. Try to use them well and enjoy the time that you have at college. Right? We miss it. Uh, so yeah.
Yes, and last point, guys. Don't stress too much for job.
Yeah.
Enjoy college life. That's not gonna come again. So enjoy up to whatever extent you can. Job lag jata hai at the end. Okay.
That's true. Actually, that's true. लग जाती है.
So
We-
don't get stressed over it. Like I was crazy back then. Don't be me.
Yeah.
Chalo, signing off, guys.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Bye bye.
All right,
Bye,
guys.
sir.
Bye bye.
Bye, sir.
Bye. Bye.